Previously on the STI motor build, after finishing all of my reliability mods for the car, the build was finally complete. The perfect daily driver. All cosmetic mods, only an exhaust and reliability mods to a stock low mileage motor. The perfect way to build a Subaru to be a reliable commuter car. It doesn't make a ton of horsepower, but I don't need a ton. We threw it on the dyno just to see how much power it makes, and
so we have Ben's car here. Unfortunately, it did just let go on the dyno. The actual reason we don't quite know yet. It being a Subaru though, it's not the most reliable engine in the world. But in this case, I would guess that it ran lean kind of due to the stock fuel system and the additional airflow. Cylinder may have detonated or again ran lean, melted something, but I would say the piston is broken and also caused that rod bearing to fail at the same time because power went down on the second pull. And I would say that there's a loss of compression kind of following that power loss.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah, a little big litter.
You see that? You don't want that stuff in there, no. Not like that. Definitely not.
I'm the 5th owner of this car, which means it's had a long life of miscellaneous owners who may or may not have taken good care of it. I bought this car about 7,000 miles ago, and I am darn sure that I took good care of it, which is why it's so upsetting to see that it might be blown up already.
Motor is ready to come out, just hooking up the chain for the engine hoist, and we're gonna have to separate it from the transmission. Sometimes they'll get stuck just due to age and stuff like that.
I can't believe this engine is out of the car now with only 69,000 miles. I did all of the reliability mods and left it mostly stock because I wanted this to be as reliable as I could make it. And yet, here we are.
We are tearing down Ben's motor today to figure out why it both had a loss of power on the dyno and started making a lower end noise. I think the cause is that it ran lean and ultimately detonated and caused rod bearing failure as well. Which cylinder I don't know, but we'll figure that out soon. This tells you that the oil change intervals were not okay, and I bet you when I pull the valve cover off, it's gonna look close to that. This motor has been apart before. It was probably like a Subaru recall, and there's too much RTV on the block. GG, Ben, GG, GG. Got some galaxy material in there, you know?
So now we know for sure that we have some sort of bearing failure, since we see bronze flakes in the oil pan. But we also know the engine lost compression, which is a separate issue. Let's dig in deeper and see what we find.
I don't think this is the side that's blown up. This is the side that's most commonly blown up. But I think it's the other side. Ooh, ooh! So under these cam caps, normally when you have bearing material kind of circulating the motor, they'll be scored. This one is scored, but it's not to a degree where the head's trash. I still have to pull the cam off though to kind of deem that. This would just require like a mild polish and then we could reuse it. Ooh, that's like the opposite of a Kinder, you know, no bueno. Oh, nothing to be seen. This head is a little bit too clean for its mileage. This has clearly like been apart before and the combustion chambers have been cleaned before. This head gasket though is not blown on that side. On this side it is also not blown. It's close, but it's not. Oh my. Oh, this side's real clean. It's neat. This side is real full of shit. Right there. Ooh. It's interesting though, because like the cleaner side is the shitty side. Looks like it's like two different motors. Could be a newer head, could have been rod knock before. Oh, you can kind of feel that scoring. Cam still though, you know, not terrible. But I mean, it's just like we have scoring on random areas. You see a little piece of bearing right there, too. Oh, look at that piston. That one looks different than all the rest. This is a wrist pin for a piston. You can see that's got like some nasty oil on it. Got some sort of okay oil on it, but we got some scoring on it too from metal contamination. So this is no good to reuse. Let's see, hold on. I have to actually look at this now. So we have oil blowing past both rings. It could be, I need to actually clean the piston to see if it's cracked within. Put the piston in this high pressure cleaner to try to clean out the rings to see if it's cracked underneath the ring as well. Like where the ring lands are, where the rings actually land, you know? The piston's okay. The ring though is broken in half, so it's there's your loss of compression and loss of power. And that happens most likely when that cylinder ran a little bit lean and also caused additional force onto the rod bearings, which is also why the rod bearing has failed.
I'm not gonna let a little rod bearing failure and cracked ring put me down. It's time to double down on this whole Subaru mess. It's time to go crazy. I just picked up an IAG Magnum block with stage 2 pocket ported heads. It's time to make some power.
So in this now new build series, we're gonna put in an IAG closed deck block with built heads, front mount intercooler, big turbo, E85, all the works, because clearly a stock motor is not the way to go with the Subaru. I tried that route and it didn't work. So now we're gonna make a ton of power.
Here's the real good stuff over at IAG. You know, luckily for Ben, we have a block that's over 9,000.
I've got the IAG Magnum block with stage 2 heads going in. We're doing the Cobb front mount intercooler. We got a Garrett G25660 turbo, Killer B header, radium fuel tank, all the works. Let's see if we can make some power.
Believe it or not, the goal with this build is not horsepower. It has and always will be reliability, because it's my daily driver. I've tried the stock method and that didn't work. Andrew Tech told me that this setup that we're building right now is the most reliable method that I can go with. It just so happens that it's also going to make a ton of horsepower.
Hey, we're here in the motor assembly room at Andrew Tech Automotive. You'll see the ins and outs of the bottom end assembly, ins and outs of the head, and kind of how motors are put together, along with the kind of niceties and increased reliability of a built engine for a specific application. This is Brent's short block that we'll be using for this build. It's a IAG Magnum short block. There are a lot of things to love about the short block, and I'll show you that soon. But this is ultimately what's going to be the best for kind of extended use under higher boost. The primary reason why I would use this block is that it has the stepped groove in here for the Firelock ring. That's a steel ring that actually kind of compresses as the head is bolted down onto the short block, and that's only done via 14mm head studs, and you actually need that additional clamping force to actually crush those rings. This is going to be using the JE Ultra pistons along with the H-Tough rods, slightly longer rods. So it is going to be good for higher RPM if we ever decide to upgrade turbos in the future, and we shift the power band and we actually need that additional rev range. But overall, this block is going to be absolutely phenomenal. Obviously, we have the 2-year 24,000 mile warranty behind everything, so it's a no-brainer.
Next, we're going to be putting on IAG Stage 2 heads with a pocket port and GSC Stage 2 cams.
And we have the heads here. This is going to be the IAG Stage 2 package with the cams and the lifters already installed for ease of installation. This head features the GSE standard valves. They are not oversized valves simply because we don't require it for this power level. In addition to that, they are brand new castings. They are not used, they're not reconditioned, so you really don't have to worry about cleaning everything or if there's debris in anything, because IAG has already, again, taken care of that for you. Over here we have kind of your head stud to head bolt comparison. This one is going to be the OEM head bolt. Stock head bolt can't actually apply that much tensile strength to anything because it doesn't have that much tensile strength. This is your traditional kind of overstock upgrade. This is the ARP2000 11mm head stud. The next step up, we're going to have the 0.5 millimeter. Okay, we can notice size difference. Size does matter. This is a ARP2000 again. This would be good for, I would say, 30 to 40 PSI max. When you start going to 40, or really 37 plus PSI, that's when you actually start kind of noticing that you are gonna have head gasket failures or head lifting or that kind of stuff. The step above the half is going to be the IAG 14mm. This is also an ARP2000, but again, it is larger than the 0.5 millimeter. But that's gonna make it so that you can run anywhere up to 50 pounds of boost and actually keep 50 pounds of boost instead of running 50 pounds of boost and the head gasket instantly blows or the head lifts, or you have a situation that's just not pleasant. You have to do a ton of modification to actually make this work, but luckily IAG already did that for you, so really you just assemble it and have a great day. We'll use the IAG 14mm head studs today because that's going to apply the amount of clamping force we need to actually crush that steel fire ring that we'll be installing with the Firelock head gaskets. Traditionally, your standard 11mm head stud will be torqued to 90 foot-pounds, but these will be torqued to 155 foot-pounds. Center lock.
Once both heads are torqued down to the block, it's time to work on the valve train. Each bucket is checked for valve clearance and then reassembled with oil and assembly lube. The cams that we're using are GSC Stage 2 cams. These cams are billet 272s to increase the lift and duration of the valves. It's intended for engines with larger turbos, but still street friendly with an earlier power band between 3,500 and 8,500 RPM.
Translate more when it's not. I am putting on the valve covers with the valve cover gaskets after I just cleaned the valve covers so they are minty fresh for this new motor. And so we can finally kind of seal up the long block here so we can continue on with the accessories of the engine.
Now the core long block has been assembled, which means it's time to start with the accessories and the power adders. But that will have to wait for next episode.